All right, brothers and sisters, blessings on each and every one of you all. This is Pastor Ambrose Carroll with Green the Church. Coming today, we want to talk about storms. Listen, in life, either you are in the midst of a storm, on your way in a storm, or by God's grace, coming out of a storm. And today at Green the Church, where our three pillars are amplifying green theology, promoting sustainable practices, and building power for political and economic change, the storm Hurricane Laura that came through the Southland, and how the African American church itself is building out logistics in order to take care of the people of God, in order to learn or to continue a tradition of resilience. There's no way that a people who've been a part of this nation for all of these years could live and exist without the spirit of resilience. We are indeed a resilient people, a people who know how to come back, a people who know how to lean and depend on God. And so, of course, as many of you, as you all know, my brothers Bruce, Ben, Sister Emily, and all of us, we grew up in Oakland, California, but I like to say we are from Hollywood, and that's Holly, Louisiana, down in the woods. And so we are connected to the great state of Louisiana, both north and south. And we have a passion. And when storms start brewing, no matter where you live, you begin to understand how we are connected one to the other. So what happens in one part of the country has an effect on us wherever we are. And we are a united body. I want to introduce my big brother Bruce Carroll, pastors the Antioch Church there in Shreveport, Louisiana. And he's got some Louisiana and Texas folk on the phone that he's going to bring to us, but just want to bring him in to talk about the effects of the storm on he and his family and on our family, and what the church is doing about it.
Amen. Good to see each and everyone on the call. Good to see you. Thank you, Pastor Ambrose Carroll, and those who are on the call today. We are here in the great city of Shreveport, Louisiana, pastoring Antioch Baptist Church, historic Antioch Baptist Church. As we do live in Holly, we come from, our roots come deeply from Holly, Louisiana. There was a Facebook thing went out comparing Shreveport or North Louisiana and South Louisiana. And I'm glad Benjamin's not on the phone on the area. He may have a whole different thought about what was said. But anyway, we're here. The storm affected us in some major ways in our state, particularly in our area. Our power was out for about 5 days. And it was a terrible thing to be without air for 5 days. Of course, our lights were on, generated, but our power was out, and we endured, had a couple of trees and power lines that were down, but those are up now, and we've been back on the grid for about 2 days. But we are passionate about what's going on around us. I have two great friends, one in the name of Dr. John Adolph, classmate, Morehouse School of Religion, who pastors in Beaumont, Texas, at the Antioch Baptist Church, Antioch Missionary Baptist Church in Beaumont, Texas. A great pastor, preacher, friend, brother, a family man. He's here, and I'm going to ask that he would talk. And also we have Dr. Theron Jackson, who is from Lake Charles, but pastors the Morning Star Baptist Church here in Shreveport, Louisiana, another friend and brother. And I want them just to come on, and we're going to guide the conversation to talk about the environment and things that are taking place in that area. Although Theron lives here, he has family there in Lake Charles, who I believe had to come this way to get out of harm's way in the area. And so we thought it would be good just to have them come on and talk about some of the things that have taken place and tell their stories about things that have taken place, how they've been affected at this time. So I believe we get started.
All right. Well, thank you again, Pastor Bruce. We have Sister Kim Noble, our Chief Operating Officer at Green the Church, who ensures that we are on task. And she is here today to conduct this interview. And so we'll turn things over to her hands. Kim, we're in your hands.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Carroll. And thank you, Dr. Adolph and Dr. Jackson, for joining us for this timely and also important discussion. We appreciate both of you joining us and taking time away from, your relief efforts to have this conversation. So thank you. Let's begin to tell your story. We want to get to know you a little bit. Pastor Adolph, let's start with you. As a lifelong resident of Texas, can you tell us a bit about yourself and what it's been like to grow up in Houston and now live in Beaumont?
Let me just say this. I want to thank God for you guys first. Ambrose, Ben, y'all are like brothers from another mother. I just love you. I've been a part of your lives for the better part of 2 decades, and I'm honored to be on this call. This may be my umpteenth Zoom call since March the 15th, right? I mean, like since the pandemic hit, it's just been call after call. Yeah. But there is nothing like being on calls with people that you love, you highly regard, you respect, and know. Dr. Theron Jackson is my friend and brother, and I'm just meeting you, so now you're my new sister. But when I say to you, it is great to be on a call where the faces are familiar, but the burdens are definitely ours to share. And so I'm grateful. Let me begin by saying I am a native Houstonian, Northside Pride. MB Smiley Senior High School, went to the South Side to attend Texas Southern University, my alma mater, graduated from there, worked for the IRS and DuPont for a minute, moved to Atlanta, Georgia to attend the greatest theological seminary in the whole wide world, ITC Morehouse. That's where I met Ben and Ambrose and a whole another cluster of brothers and sisters that I love and endear to this day. After 3 years there, was looking to say, God, where you gonna send me? And God sent me to Beaumont, Texas. Been married for 24 years, the most wonderful woman in the world. 2 children, both adopted. I adopted my daughter, Simone, at 3 months old. She is now a freshman at Prairie View, A&M University. And I adopted my son at 18 months old, and he is 17 and girl crazy. Pray for me. Yeah. Having said that, let me just say this. This is my 7th hurricane. This is my 7th storm. So I'm not new to it anymore. After a while, you just gain a rhythm. If it's a category 1, just hold on. You're going to be fine. It's some wind and rain. Category 2, barbecue your meat because you're going to lose power. Category 3, run, please, get out of town. Category 4, it can just demolish you. Category 5 is the finger of God. So when we heard about Laura coming, Laura was number 7 for me, Ben, this number 7. So I was watching her disintegrate when she ran over Cuba, how she kind of, fell apart. And overnight, she became a category 2. That frightened me right away. I said, oh my goodness. And so by the time she got midstream in that warm water of the Gulf at 82 degrees, she just picked up more speed. Just for those who don't know, she became, when she came ashore, she was running at 153 miles per hour. That's 2 miles per hour shy of a category 5. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and grade this paper on the curve, shall we? She was really a category 5. We were praying that she would miss us, just God, please. And I want to say to you guys that overnight, the eye of the storm moved 43 miles to the east. So I didn't have any branches in my yard. When I got home Thursday, Ambrose, my neighbor was watering his lawn. Okay, go figure. So it was that kind of normalcy. Immediately, I began to put our emergency response team together because we have one. After 7 storms, you get used to saying, hey, let's help people. By the way, here's a caveat and a footnote. God has blessed us in some unique ways. And none of the 7 previous storms did any rain get in our church. No flood water. Hurricane Harvey, 53 feet of water at its crest. Guinness Book, World Records, worst flood U.S. history ever. Antioch Baptist Church had no water in it. You go figure. That's just the Lord, right? It's like Gideon's fleece, just. So when I say to you was just God, so immediately I began to put things in place. I told my executive director, hey, we got to do something. So we're going to do this, this, and this. So I told, Brooklyn, hey, get this ready. We got to do this. I contacted a young lady who leads our efforts, Felicia Young. And I said, I'm going to go live and ask people to drop me water and supplies off. And you guys, in about maybe 12 hours, we had 2 U-Hauls full of supplies. They went to Lake Charles. I did not make the trip with them, but I could see the pictures that they sent me. Guys, listen to me. I went Sunday. So I went myself. I put my son and 3 other high school senior boys in the truck with me and made them drive to Lake Charles with me. When we got to Lake Charles, Bruce, Ambrose, just Theron, I've never seen anything like this. The best description I could give anybody watching or sharing with us who saw a few snippets on CNN or, MSNBC is much worse than that. Lake Charles, Cameron, Louisiana, looks like a bomb exploded. That's a better picture. Like Beirut, when that ship exploded. That's what the city looks like. Buildings imploded. Every power line you can imagine down is down. Buildings closed. Rooftops. What frightened me, Bruce, the worst, was driving down a street, seeing a mattress in the street with clothes around it. Which means if you stayed there, you died. There's no way to make it through that. What hurt my heart the most was an older lady in North Louisiana, Lake Charles. And she was standing at her door as I was trying to make my way through all the rubble. And the tree was laying right in the middle of her home. And she was just standing on the porch looking out. Oh, that is a stained memory. I told my wife and my executive director, I really don't want y'all to go with us on the next mission trip. Don't go. Because some of it will stain you, because you have to ask tough questions like, God, why? Please, these people are hurting. And, it was a tough scenario. And so, but we are actively involved in helping. Our crews have been working around the clock. In fact, Theron, we are headed your way, man. Bruce, we headed to y'all. Tomorrow is Lake Charles. So we have an 18-wheeler filled with water and supplies, 2 40-foot U-Hauls loaded with food and other supplies, from baby diapers to feminine products to cleaning supplies, stuff you can't buy because we know that they need it. I'm not for sure of our location. They changed it, but we leave Beaumont at 6:30 a.m. to get to Lake Charles to do that. Sunday, I took people debit cards. We had about $2,000 or $3,000 in debit cards, but I stopped you guys after giving out 10 of them, because you don't give a debit card, Bruce, to a woman living in a jungle. What you gonna do with it? Now wait, a debit card for Lake Charles is like giving me, cooking equipment, but there's no stove or no oven. There's nothing you can do with it. So they were thankful, they were appreciative, but there's nothing you can do. So right now, I'm realizing that the water is starting to be contaminated. So some of the water we're taking is for them to shower with. How do you get clean if you don't have running water? So when I say it's the worst of all 7 storms, hey, Bruce, I don't know if you remember this, but we did work in New Orleans after Katrina. Wait, we were there. I was on the ground. So, you can't tell me about wreckage and ruins, but when I tell you of all the storms I've seen, Katrina, Rita, Ike, Humberto, Gustav, Harvey, Imelda, nothing is like Laura. I've never seen anything like it. So to have this broadcast on today for us means a lot to me personally, because a conscious raised can be people that you can put to work. And so I'm happy to know that y'all are doing it.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Adolph. My heart just goes out to you when I hear you say this is your 7th hurricane. I mean, that just really hits home. Yes, and we know this. We know that we're experiencing extreme climate disasters. You started naming them all off. You know, Katrina and Harvey and Irma, Maria. But you said something about Laura was unique. And I think we can make the correlation when we see that NASA has found within the last decade that this was the hottest decade on record. And some people say, well,
Wow.
what in the world does, it being hot outside have to do with hurricanes? Well, warmer climate means more extreme and stronger hurricanes. Warmer seas produce stronger hurricanes. The warmer the water, the more energy available for the storm. And so, with a warming climate, with climate change, we know that it's now changing life on Earth as we know it. It's not going to change. It's going to continue to evolve, but we're already experiencing those impacts. And you just shared with us what that's been like for you. I want to switch now and talk to Dr. Jackson. Dr. Theron, we know that you pastor Morning Star Baptist Church in Shreveport, Louisiana, but you're from Lake Charles, and we understand, as Dr. Adolph just explained, that it was hit pretty hard. Can you tell us what were you thinking when you heard that the storm was aiming for a bullseye in Lake Charles and you have family there?
Well, let me just say thank you for this opportunity to be with you all as well. To all of you, Ambrose, Bruce, all of you, it's always good to be with you. Kim, it's a pleasure meeting you. And I knew that I was praying that I'd get a word in edgewise when I'm on with John Adolph because he's passionate and he got so much to say. It'd be different if he was wasting time, but he says so much in a small portion of time. So I'm going to try to do my best to just kind of echo the sentiments that he has put out, but I'm touched uniquely by this because I have family members with me here in Shreveport now who evacuated up this way. I was born and raised in Calcasieu Parish. It is where my roots are, and went to high school there, and then when I moved from there to go to college, I've never moved back since 1987. So I've been away, but my family's been there the whole time, and so I'm back often. I was actually there in August, and when the Iowa storm was coming away, like John. I have been. I don't even know how many hurricanes. I don't even know. We had not just hurricanes, but there were floods every year. We've always had weather down. When you live that close to the coast, you kind of get accustomed to those kind of things, unfortunately. But this is a different kind of devastation. This was unique for me in a way that I'm touched uniquely by, because this week people in our church who do disaster response reached out to me and say, "Okay, Pastor, what should we do?" And I had to, for what is probably, I guess, maybe the first time in my ministry, be honest with them and say to them, I'm going to support whatever y'all choose to do, but I don't have the mental energy right now to work around this. I was in a place where my mental scenario was in such that I'm trying to take care of the people who are up here. During Hurricane Rita, I had 35 people who lived in my house for several days. We couldn't do that this time. I bought hotel rooms and those things because, this hurricane comes to us, as John talks about, the worst ever. But you multiply that worst ever during a pandemic, and we saw a pandemic sit upon our community who already had pre-existing conditions. And I don't just mean the physical ones. I mean racism and a lot of other things that were pre-existing conditions that make us less immune to the things that end up killing us, if you will. And so for me, I just didn't have I was exhausted, to be honest with you. And I'm working through that from a mental health perspective, even right now, to understand that while I have a mixture of trauma and grief around this circumstance, I have a friend who I used to call Big Brother. You may have heard about it in the news down in that area, John, but there were 5 people in the house who, once the storm passed, died. One of those people in the house was a longtime retired postman whose name is Clyde Handy, who I used to refer to as Big Brother, because they had a generator in their garage and they had the door to the house open. And as my grandmother would say back in the day, they woke up dead. and all five of them in the house passed away because of carbon monoxide poisoning. That's still a very real issue right now when people are trying to live lives around generators right now. So I do hope that that's something that as we talk about, the environment, that we talk a little bit about that as well, because that's a very real issue for people who are down there who are going to be trying to survive, because many people are scattered, but there's some who decided to stay and some who've come back already, and they're trying to exist on generators. And I just think that's an issue for them as well. But I do want to say that I do think that those folks who are coming back, I hope that the church is prepared to, while we're concerned about the human condition and we are concerned about the environmental condition, that we don't forget that there's going to be a need to be concerned about the emotional and mental well-being of people who were already sequestered, quarantined, uncertain about a ubiquitous pandemic. And now with this upon them, I mean, sometimes, Pastor Adolph was saying he's not going to take some people with him. Some people don't have a choice but to go back to that. And they keep asking this 2-word question that I've said for the last several days: what next? Just what next? After going through this and that and this and that, the church must be, in my opinion, prepared to deal with people on an emotional level when they are asking, and quite frankly, asking justifiably so, what next? And so that's my concern, is whether we are positioned to be able to serve the whole person, not only from the human perspective. And I'm excited that our disaster relief folks are getting ready. We've got much like Brother Adolph, we've got an 18-wheeler. They're working on some things. But what I told them last night is that what we will not do is drive by. What we will not do is be a one-hitter. We will not go and take a truck and celebrate ourselves. But we're going to enter into solidarity with people, because these one drop-offs, that's charity. And charity tends to put the giver on center stage. But when it's solidarity, it's as long as you're in it, we're in it too. And I have a personal, I got skin in this game because I got family there. But it is the truth whether I have family or not. They deserve to have people who are going to be with them to walk through this journey. And listen, they're going to be a month before they get electricity. And after they get electricity, they're going to be another 3 months cleaned up. And do you know we're in holiday season by that time? There'll be summer of next year trying to get this together. And oh, by the way, there may be some activity in the Gulf over the course of the next 90 days. There is a legitimate question of what next and how we prepare people for the what next. And so brother Bruce, Brother Adolph, those of you all who have some theological inclination, the question of the theodicy raises, in my opinion, now, and we've got to be ready to wrestle with these theodical issues. And so I just think that the church, while we're concerned about people, we have to be concerned about the multi-dimensions of people, their environment, their health, and their mental capacity as well.
If I could say,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bruce.
Thank you, Pastor Jackson. Just thank you for your passion and your honesty. I mean, I think, there is a piece that we call environmental trauma, which says that we know that these hurricanes are coming. We know in a season, and people get tense and anxious already, and we are dealing with so much. But I just want to applaud what you said as a pastor of an African American church, people under so much trauma, to understand the extent of your own ability to be present 24/7. Because the jobs we have are 24/7. I was talking with somebody the other day, and they were saying, well, yeah, I'm at home, so I try to turn my phone off at a certain time of night so I can go ahead. And I thought, we can't turn our phone off. And so the ability to say, all right, y'all got to handle it, because right now I'm dealing with the fact that in regular time, my house would be open for my family and friends. But the people that I want to care and take care of because of COVID-19, what I would extend as love may not be the most loving thing to do.
Right.
This is a tight time, you all. And the piece around charity and where that starts at home for us is why I know that we need our own connectivity, our own national grid, where yes, it's good for the Red Cross to send something. Yes, it's good for other folk to send something. But what can we do as the Black church collectively and how can we aggregate and know what the need is, and how can we pull together, not just for our own sake. And I like that too, not just because I can and because I said we're going to hit it and quit it and say we did it, but that we are connected, not only to the good stuff, but to the difficult stuff. Thank you. Kim, I'm going to try not to interrupt, but that was hard. That's a passionate piece.
That's all right. Bruce, look like you want to get in here too. You're good? All right. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Jackson. I really appreciate your words and your insight. I was trying to take notes while you were talking. You talked about solidarity. That's so important. You talked about the paramount question of what's next. We know that climate change is getting worse, and we're still in the middle of hurricane season. And so before we know it, we could, in reality, have another hurricane that we're dealing with when we're still trying to recover from this one. Right. So my question is, and Dr. Adolph, I'll ask this one to you. What can churches do to prepare? I'm sure folks are tuning into this and would love to hear your insights.
One thing that churches can do to prepare in the pandemic is that many churches are not back assembled yet, depending on the congregation and its size. And so it puts us at an advantage to some degree because people are already at home. So, they can respond to local emergency officials who give announcements. That's been my issue. I will tell them, listen to those who are elected officials. So if they're saying to leave or to evacuate, get out if you can. If you can't, let me know, because we will find means and methods to keep you out of harm's way. In the stead that, you're able to, like us in Beaumont, just be able to say, God kissed us, we missed this one. I mean, just period. That means that you owe God something to me. I could not agree more with Dr. Jackson in that whole solidarity piece, to partner with people, entities, enterprises, and other organizations. Our first trip was just me on the hearts of people I have impact and influence with on social media outlets. But from that has garnered a whole another push. Bruce, I got a telephone call from Mormons who called and said, hey, we saw you on social media. We have 36 cases of water. We will give it to you if you take it. Say, what? Are you kidding? Amen, bring it. Wait, where do we pick that up? You see, so I'm going to meet him today at 4:30 to shake his hand. I've never met him. So just partnerships, collaborations where we work with and through others to help a region to get back up on its feet. I've been asked a question numerous times, how long, Kim, will we be involved in Lake Charles? And my answer to that is ready until they move from disaster relief to long-term recovery. There's a big difference. I've been doing this. This is my 7th storm. So disaster relief is not long-term recovery. They are two totally different animals. Long-term recovery deals with how I'm going to fix my roof. Disaster relief says put a tarp on that. If we can tarp it, you good, it won't leak. But at least for now, we know you're safe. So right now, our issue is food, water, shelter, and safety to help whatever we can do to keep that going. And so the other hurricanes or the other activity we have in the water now is very real. Nana is a hurricane. Dr. Jackson, Omar is a hurricane. So we have 2 more. And it's amazing, for those with good memories, who's about 50 like me, can remember that we were at the National Baptist Convention in New Orleans, Bruce. Remember that? And the week after, Katrina slams. Well, wait, I never forget, I've had a few fights in my church where my deacons got mad. If they could have put me out, they would have. One of those was because a lady knocked on my door, man. I was in the office, Ambrose, just, spending some pastoral time. And a lady knocked on my door at the old location, and she had a blanket in her hand, kind of over her shoulder. And she just knocked and said, will you help me? And I said, well, ma'am, yes, what do you need? She said, I'm from New Orleans. We don't have nowhere to go. And I said, absolutely, come on in. Y'all, she turned around and said, it's open, y'all come on in. About 4, 5 carloads of people got out at one time on me. And so the church became the Motel 8, not the 6. We're a little better than 6, just people were living in the cathedral. Well, my deacons at that time were like, have you lost your mind? I told them, I think God is pleased. So Sunday that came, we was packed for my first time. I'm like, whoo, it's a full house, But half of them were from New Orleans, sleeping on the pew. But I learned something from that. The Red Cross showed up, set up a feeding shop in our parking lot. FEMA showed up, they put a temporary office there. I quickly learned, and that was my first hurricane, that if you avail yourself to help, God will, without question, supply the needed resources for you to make that happen. This is not about your budget. It's much more about your system of belief. So we're living it right now. So I would tell churches to prepare, make sure you caution your parishioners. And if there is a storm headed towards you, that's a strong 2 or 3, you tell them to leave if they can. Obey those officials who give leadership and governance to those areas to which you live. If you are not hit, then you ought to be helping in some capacity. Hey, Ambrose, there's a pastor in Port Arthur. They were flooded to 18 feet during Hurricane Harvey. Greater True Vine Baptist Church. Young pastor there, great preacher. Just Jared Phillips is his name. And I was on social media this morning and noticed that they had an 18-wheeler full of water headed to Lake Charles. I said, man, I love you so much, because his congregation is not massive. He may have, a few people there, but they are moving in mass to make this happen. And if he can do it, so can anybody else. It's just a matter of the heart, just what you can do to help. I think that the stats and facts that Theron gave are accurate. The problem with those stats and facts is that they're going to soon become our reality. It'll be, holiday season before they ever see anything that resembles normality. For pastors and preachers and greening the church, it does raise issues of theodicy. For those who understand that whenever bad things happen to good people, it raises issues like, where was God? If God loves me, why is this happening to me? In fact, Theron, just yesterday on my prayer call, I talked about why bad things happen to good people. Because the Lord allows Job to see just a very horrible time. Yet God loves Job. And so we have to answer those questions, or at least as an apologist, give a response to those questions. And so while we were riding to Lake Charles Sunday, I have 3 handsome football, basketball playing teenagers in my truck. And when we get to Lake Charles, all the laughter ceases. There is no more jokes. No one, there's silence in my truck. One young man said, Uncle Bobby, does God love these people? Isn't that an interesting question? And I said, oh, absolutely. He said, well, how do you know? Look at all that's happened. And I said, God is sitting in the same place he was seated when they crucified his son. He's enthroned, he's empowered, and he loves them. Another young man from Westbrook High School then said, well, is God fair for this? We didn't get any water, and they got all of this. And I told him, what you see is punishment could be entrustment. God could trust them with this, because I don't think Beaumont could have withstood it. We don't know his ways. We don't have it all figured out. But if there was ever a time I think inquiring minds want to know, it's in seasons like these. And so my prayers are with them, but it's not only my prayers, my participation will be. In fact, if you're watching, man, tomorrow morning, we'll be in Lake Charles, Louisiana, prepared to render food service to at least 4,000 families. That's the prayer right now. So hold on, I know that's just a drop of sand, a drop of water on some dry sand. But our drop will be for God's glory, and we'll be back. Now, Theron, I do have a question for you. How was Kim, if you don't mind, Theron, was your region hard hit?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I would say of 100% of my family, the homes of 85% were damaged. Now, I don't have a small family, and my family lives in Lake Charles, Sulphur, Westlake. I have a cousin who passes in Westlake and churches in Sulphur and in Lake Charles. So it's home for me. And so a lot of people were. And so incalculable right now, because it's just the initial trauma of just seeing it for them now. But at some point, they got to deal with it. And what my cousin, for example, called me today to tell me, because of the region, his church has a $75,000 deductible on their $1 million church property. And so they're trying to wrestle with how they get the deductible before they even start talking about insurance. So I'm literally trying to take African-American owned construction companies who have good reputations down to that area as well, because that's a part of the long-term strategy, how they begin to come back, because it is in times like these where folks begin to take advantage of people. And the less you know about home ownership and taking care of your home, the more likely and vulnerable you are to be taken advantage of. This is when folks come with fake cards and say they're a contracting company. They're going to fix your roof. They need $3,000 up front and $3,000 when they finish. You give them a check for $3,000 and they never come back again. This is happening in the midst of this. And so I'm doing what I can to have learned lessons from prior times to make sure that we can try to mitigate against that happening again when we go back this time. But thank you for asking. But yeah, my family is significantly touched, as all families are. When 100% of the electricity is out in a city, when 100% of the people, that it didn't miss anybody, whether you got a picket fence, whether you live on a house on a hill or in the projects, the wind came through and didn't take roll.
Thank you for sharing that visual, Pastor Jackson. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done, and I know you both are really in the thick of it. What can people who are watching, who listen to this, what can they do? What can they give to support the work that's being done? How can they support your efforts?
Well, let me say, for us, I would want people to make sure that they give directly to institutions that are going to help people who are going to need the help the most. Okay. The extent to which you can connect with us, what I would do if you connect with me is I'm going to connect you with an institution in Lake Charles, a church or somebody in Lake Charles who is on the ground. And don't get me wrong, there are community foundations, there's a Red Cross, and it's all of this stuff. But I don't have to tell you that doesn't make its way all the way down to places where it needs to go. It needs to be, Gospel's going to need some help. North Lake Charles is going to need help. And trust me, North Lake Charles is not going to be a priority to many of those folks. But we have to do what we can to make sure that the resources get to places where people don't have insurance, where they're not going to be made whole by insurance policies on their property. Listen, if you are already struggling, this kind of a situation can take you out of the margin and push you over the side. And that's what I'm concerned about, those folks who are already living in the margin when the sun was shining. What happens now during the storm? And I think that's what we've got to be concerned about, is those folk who are on the periphery, how we do our best to take care of them. So what are those agencies that have a track record with dealing with the least and the last and the left out? Black churches ought to be one. And I think we ought to I'm challenging churches to partner with another church there, particularly if you have a relationship with them, to be able to make sure that the resources get to the people who need them the most. So I'm not prepared to give anybody a place to send money right now in Lake Charles, but I want to tell you to be generous. And when the opportunity presents itself, to make sure that you are able to give. And I would say give because it didn't happen to you. I think Adolph said it just a minute ago. You owe God if you missed it. I listened to him in the beginning, and I'm going to identify a couple of churches that, Pastor Adolph, you can send checks directly to, because I heard you say you prayed that the Lord would move that storm to the east, out of Beaumont and into Lake Charles. It's still in the Golden Triangle, so you owe God for answering your prayer. So I'll give you the names of some people you can write checks directly to.
I'll cut them, man. I'll cut them. Brothers and sisters, for those of you, let me say this. I echo a similar sentiment to Dr. Jackson. Partner with people and entities, organizations that you can trust, who you can see readily doing God's work. If they have to pay administrative fees out of the gift you gave, run. Right. This is purely about taking this dollar here to that people over there and giving them the whole dollar. Nothing taken out. Having said that, we've been receiving funds, and I want to make it public, man, where God has sent our funds from. So far, I think as of yesterday, some 48,000 has come in to help us load these trucks and move this material. And I am happy to say much of it has come from churches around the area, around the state and the country, from pastors who say, hey, man, if you're doing work, I'm going to work through you. I want to thank God for Dr. Terry K. Anderson and the Lily Grove Church of Houston. They bought us $15,000 and said, man, do the work. I want to personally thank Dr. Keon Henderson from The Light in Houston. He said, Adolph, I see y'all on social media. Here is 10,000. Man, keep doing the work. We love you. I want to thank the Star in Birmingham, Alabama. Dr. Thomas Beavers sent $5,000 and said, man, keep going. I want to thank God for this church in Liberty. I think the pastor's last name is Gladney. I hope I got that name right. But they sent $2,000. So much of our resources have come. Wait, I want to thank our district attorney. You know, people don't see politicians till they need a vote, you know. That is not my case with our DA. He's a friend and a brother, and he dropped by with the first $5,000 gift and said, please help them with this. I wish I could do more. I want to thank Dr. Paris Bransford. He's a cardiologist in Beaumont. I think like $2,500. So thousands of dollars towards us have come to us from people and churches and organizations that say, hey, we see your work, keep going. As I mentioned, the Church of Latter-day Saints, 36 cases of water, more than a 18-wheeler could hold. We are so grateful, man. For HEB, hey, y'all, I don't know, see, y'all in Louisiana, y'all gonna have HEB. We have HEBs. And when I say I don't shop at Walmart no more, Walmart has never, hey, Ambrose, out of 7 hurricanes, Walmart has never extended any help. They open their doors for you to buy, but no help. HEB, listen to this, guys. This is the truth. Hurricane Harvey, they gave me $50,000 worth of debit cards and said, we're going to trust you to hand these out. Okay, so I made sure everybody signed the form to get a $25 debit card. Wait, Hurricane Imelda, they called me and said, Pastor Adolph, we want to help. They gave me $50,000 in debit cards. I spent the 4th Sunday of that particular month going to every church in our region, dropping off debit cards based on the number of parishioners you have there that day. So that whole day, some 4.5 hours, I was the debit card preacher. You understand? My sermon that day was in my service to them. This time they call, hey, Pastor. So now we have a relationship with HEB. They'll call and say, okay, are you guys all right? And, and I told them, we're fine, but Louisiana isn't. So they went as far, I think, as Orange, Texas, with their assistance. But I just say, that I'm appreciative for those entities, organizations, pastors, and people who give. But don't let the thousands make you say mine doesn't count. A lady stopped me yesterday, Bruce, Cedric, Carol, in a car with the windows down and the air wasn't working. This was yesterday. She said, Rev, I want to help. I said, listen, anything you want to help with, you can. They're in there right now putting together disaster bags, so you can go do that. I said, okay. She said, no, I don't have time to stay. She said, take this 20. She said, this is my last 20. I said, thank you so much, Mother. We prayed. I asked God to bless that gift, and we did that. So my response is simply, every gift counts. For people who say, Pastor Adolph, I want to be a part of what y'all are doing, we do have a landing site for you to give. 10, 5, whatever you want to give. And if you specify the gift, that gift can go for our good, God's glory, and the work we're going to do all over Louisiana. The address is www.antioch, ANTIOCH, BMT.org, AntiochBMT.org, and then you go to the giving link, click it, and you can give online. And simply put in the memo section, this is for Louisiana Hurricane Support, Laura. That way they know this money is earmarked for those reasons. We will take those resources, we will buy water, we will buy food and supplies. We will continue to do this work until disaster relief is finished. If we have any resources that are remaining at that point in time, Bruce, we plan to cut a check to a local church who is already doing the work and say to them, please continue the work because we've done our part. So that's where we are.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Adolph. I appreciate your passion and you also sharing the address where folks can give. Extremely helpful. I want to wrap this up. Dr. Jackson, thank you so much for taking time to be on the call. Dr. Adolph as well, it's been a pleasure to talk with you. Keep doing the work. We'll continue to send our prayers as well. And Pastor Ambrose, I'll hand it back over to you.
God bless you. Thank you so much, Kim. Thank you so much, Dr. Jackson, Dr. Adolph. Bruce, you have anything in closing?
I want to thank Dr. Jackson, Dr. Adolph, my friends and brothers for coming on the call. It does my heart good. As y'all both were talking, I'm beginning to just kind of feel like, oh man, it's really you got your physical, you got your mental, even spiritual effects that have taken place even within our own lives, and just trying to get through this piece. So we're here for one another. So thank y'all again for coming on the call. God bless y'all. Love you.
Amen. Amen. And again, thank you all. This has been taped and recorded, and we plan to share as widely as we can. We really want to be a conduit and a help. Green the Church, again, is amplifying green theology, promoting sustainable practices, whether that's disaster preparedness, renewable energy, food sovereignty, energy efficiency, workforce development, environmental justice issues. Wherever the Black church is moving on those issues, we want to be found shining a light, because too many times people are talking about what the Black church is not doing. And the reality is we are doing much and holding a lot. I thank and praise God today for you all, shining examples of African-American male leadership, right? And I think that for far too long, people talk about what the church isn't doing, talk about what the Black pastor is not doing. And I thank and praise God for you all standing in the gap for all of us. And listen, again, if you all have heard this, please send whatever you can. Let's be in touch with Pastor Jackson. And if there are people who you know on the ground, make sure those dollars get there. If you are listening and you want to get as close as you can to the fire, please send to www.antiochbmt.org. We need your gifts. Listen, just listening to you all says to me that we're not seeing enough about this on the news. They're not talking enough about the plight of our people right now on the news. I've heard about the effects to 76, and I've heard about the effect to some of the oil refineries, but the effects on the lives of our people and the migration that's going to happen based on this storm is tremendous. So again, hats off to you. This is no time to play, to dream, to drift. We have hard work to do and loads to lift. Shun not the struggle. The struggle is the gift to be strong. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace. Thanks, Kim.
Hey, man, thank you all.
Bless you, man.